Today we're going to be talking about aluminum and props, maintaining and polishing aluminum weapons. So first of all, congratulations to Cabin 9 Films and the crew that previously worked under the names of Zombie Orpheus Productions and Gentleman Productions. Gamers Darkness Falls has been funded, so we're looking forward to that. I still haven't seen a script. I don't know exactly what my role in that is going to be, how much of the prop weaponry I'll be providing, or what else I'll be doing, but helping somehow with violence, design, and fights, so we'll see. Awesome. Well done, everybody. All right, been fairly active, not in the last couple of weeks because I had COVID and stuff, but before that on the PewTube channel, that's had a lot more activity the last couple of months because there's been some pretty cool developments with prop guns, with these shell-ejecting spring blowback models, with suppressors that can do simulated muzzle flash, stuff like that. So I've had a fair amount over there. If you haven't been there in a while, check that out. But I had shortchanged the fight designer stuff a little bit while I was trapped in the room on my own. I redid that little intro segment. But also I've gotten tried out some new things here for aluminum. Aluminum weapons are great for both stage and screen. They kind of first took off with with screen work because they were lighter and faster, and it didn't matter if they went clank instead of clang because you can Foley the sound in any way. And we have this expectation in film work that things will be a little faster and flashier, whereas there's a little more suspension of disbelief in live theater. We know that it's an actor, not a stunt double doing it. We know that they have to sing a song when they're done, whatever it is, right? And so steel weapons were a little bit more the standard in stage for a long time, and they're still used there, but aluminum's been starting to get used more and more in stage as well, while we've started seeing even lighter things used in screen work, whether that's bamboo or, partial blades that are CG the rest of the way, things like that. So with stage use especially, you're doing a lot more maintenance. Film, they'll be much more likely to just kind of swap things out on set on the day because there's no time to do a whole ton of maintenance and then sell them off at the end. Whereas stage or rental houses like myself or Preferred Arms, we're going to be trying to keep things in service as long as we can because that's the only way to even break even. And theaters also likewise. And aluminum's not as durable as steel. It is a little softer. It's not going to last quite as long, but if you take care of it, and it's good 70-75 aluminum, it'll still last a while. But it does sometimes get a little duller on a finish. It doesn't rust, but it can kind of get this dull look to it. Sometimes you want that. You want something to be sort of aged. So I have some where I've specifically used aluminum black to kind of make it look like old forged steel, or the ones there's a previous video on making it look like bronze for things like the Percy Jackson Lightning Thief musical. Usually what I'm trying to do is shine them up and also make things that are basically just flat slabs look like they have a little more dimension. So one of the things I like to do is just use fine grit sandpaper. And if you have some burring along the edges, that can also help clean that up. Start with a file, but you always want to finish with fine grit sandpaper anyway, because you want a smooth edge. It's not just that it doesn't have spikes sticking out, but you want it to be smooth, so if it does draw against skin or costumes or whatever, it's not going to cause problems. And so I think I've talked about this before. It is kind of nice in that it gives it a different texture, and so now it also does look a little like it's got a bevel, right? The edges are a little bit different quality than the middle, so it gives it sort of a fake edge quality when it's otherwise just flat. But it's not a super great shine. And it still doesn't quite look the same as steel. I don't know. It's not going to catch the lights quite as flashy. But what I've switched to using more recently is simichrome polish. And you can get this stuff online or at hardware stores. And this, you don't need a buffing wheel and it's not like the old things where you got like the rosin and you get it on the buffing wheel and you have to carefully go through it with power tools and all. No, this is just a paste, and you put a little on a rag. Got some old sheets here, right? A little pink paste. And then what I'm gonna do is show you real time what that'll do. So again, we're starting. This is our before. We've got a decent shine from the 800 grit sandpaper and kind of dull in the middle. So let's kind of do the whole thing and see what it does to both. I suspect, I haven't done this exact experiment before, I suspect we're going to have a little less difference between the edges and the flat at the end of this. This is coming off black because that's what aluminum does when especially when it's oxidized, and aluminum oxidizes super quickly. which is why I can get that sort of dull finish. So you will get this sort of black gunk residue when you're done. But when you just give it a little bit of elbow grease and finish polishing that up, and I could do this with the fittings as well. That guard is also aluminum. That was just a little dab, and like a minute of rubbing it with a bed sheet. But it is now definitely shinier. Like I'm actually seeing light reflected on surfaces, kind of like when you got a cell phone in the sunshine, right? I can actually see the light. Yeah, I see it on my arm there, right? You can see it reflecting light now. So that is going to give it a little bit more of a nice metallic shine if what you want is something that's flashy and clean looking and more metallic. Now, I didn't go as hard on the other side, so this side's still a little duller in the middle compared to this one where I did the whole thing, right? And one of the obvious questions is going to be, okay, yeah, it looks great now, because I found this with brass on brass fittings. It'll look great for a day, and then after that, it'll be kind of dull again, and not shiny gold looking, but back to that sort of matte aged brass look. So to answer that question, here's the fresh one. To answer that question, I did these several weeks ago. It was a vacation and a COVID quarantine and another week ago. So this is a before and after. This one actually I didn't do, this one I did. And these are again some of the cheaper aluminum swords that I got as blanks that were left over from Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. Hilted up on my own with just hardware store aluminum. These have been great for like middle school classes and things like that because they're super light. But you can see this one got polished up and it is still a little shinier, right? It still catches the light better. This one did not get the polish and the paste, and so at least for me in person, I can definitely tell it's duller. You can see it looks a little whiter on camera because it's just flatter, and you don't get quite as many of the lights playing off it. Let's see if I get a little colored light here. There we go. So now I get a little blue light there. So you should be able to see specifically if it reflects that light. Yeah, I can get a little blue on this one. Yeah, I can see that little bit of blue traveling up. And yeah, not nearly as much here, right? And I did a little bit just on the highlights of the sort of hammered finish that I did on the guard as well. And you can see it also catches better where it sticks up, but it's still got that kind of texturing, sort of pockmarked face facets from the hammerwork. Whereas the other one is a little duller, a little more kind of white gray, a little less shiny. Doesn't reflect the light of the colors quite as much. So a little before and after. So there's a couple different products like this out there. Simichrome isn't the only one, but this is fairly cheap, and one of these tubes will probably last you a long time, especially since it doesn't take a whole lot, and the polish lasts a while. It's not like you got to do it right before every night performance or even before every gig. Just periodically as it gets, a little bit of wear and tear. Here's another example. I love aluminum for hafted weapons because a lot of the effectiveness of these as weapons and the danger of them as props comes from the fact of the weight out at the end of this lever. And so, especially something like a warhammer, if this is solid steel, it's super hard to control. And even if this is not sharp, it's still a spike. Even if it's a blunt spike, it's still a spike. And I would not want to catch this in a body part at all, even rounded off a bit as it is. But the fact that it's aluminum and that this is a hollow steel pipe means that this is actually pretty darn light. I haven't weighed this. I would guess, maybe 1.5 pounds, if that. And it's not a lot of leverage either, so feels even lighter than a 1.5 pound sword would. So that gives you a fair amount of control to be able to stop it. Basically just on a dime, which is lovely. I can do this with my iPhone right there and not be too worried about hitting it. I can do that with people as well, which if this were steel, I would be much more reticent about that. And I'd be hurting my wrist because every time I have to stop it, all these little muscles in here having to do all the work, and it's on my joints, and that just makes me unhappy. So the fact that I can do this in aluminum makes it a much more viable option. Could I do it in rubber or plastic or, 3D printed or bamboo? Yeah, but then you got to do a lot of work in the painting phase to try and get it to look at all metallic. And even if it's like a foam or a LARP one and a self-skinning kind of thing that's got the metallic, it's great, but it's not at all durable, and it's super easy if you just bend that backwards, and now the self-skinning outer part of the latex or silicone or whatever it is has ripped, and now you can't use it anymore, and you got to replace it. You can't just fix those. It's just foam on the inside. You can't just glue them back together. So I think aluminum can be a great compromise, especially for anything that's a heavy weapon. I wouldn't bother with like a small sword, but broadswords, awesome. Axes, perfect. Warhammers, whatever, right? Great option to have. Doesn't solve every problem, and there's still times when you might want something that's not even metal at all, but it's a great start. It's a great default, especially if you can make it pretty. Would I want this to always be shiny? Probably not. I might even do some aluminum black on something like this if I had a range of options that I wanted to provide for a production. But, for now, you can't tell a whole heck of a lot of difference between the aluminum and the steel, which is what you want, right? Because we're pretending this is all steel. So it looks fairly consistent. It all looks solid and metal, and it sounds solid metal, which is great. Yep, and it's, it can play nice with other aluminum. And you can shine it up. So there we go. Simichrome and 800 grit sandpaper. Really all you need, that and a file and maybe some like 220 grit when it starts to get burrs. Stay tuned. I should be sharing some more stuff in the next month or so, at least on the YouTube channel, as I've got some other things I want to try with that. Continuing to play with these fake muzzle flash suppressor lights. I've been playing around with disassembling some of them and trying to put them in my own little housings and things like that. And I got some workshops coming up and some other projects, and I'd love to talk about some of the stuff that I've seen and done in the last month. So stay tuned, like, subscribe, let me know if there's stuff you're interested in. I'm happy to chat, and take care, play safe, look good, stay sane, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.